So we are the ZOMBIO team, and it was kind of a serendipity that we came across the Synbio competition because it just popped up in my LinkedIn feed, and I think in parallel it's popped up in Malika's feed as well. And we also had another teammate, Taylor, that was going to join, but unfortunately, due to personal circumstances, she was unable to. And so since Malika and I, we've been in touch basically since the iGEM in 2022, but we never really had the opportunity to create a project together. We decided to sit down and brainstorm what we could do and kind of lean back into our, background of synthetic biology, because both of us are doing a bit less of that now. And since we, in our daily academic life and professional life, come across a lot of different challenges, we just kind of sat down and discussed which ones we shared a passion towards tackling. And that's kind of how the idea came around. And maybe Malika can tell you a bit more about the idea and how we decided to tackle it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to elaborate further. And yes, me and Maxime just sat down in the university campus and we thought about biotechnology in the broader sense of the word and what are current existing big challenges in bioproduction in general. So wherever you look, whether it's research, industrial applications, or even existing new startups, few limitations keep reoccurring in all of these ventures. So we have inefficiencies in traditional fermentation processes, which we use to reference in our bioreactor model, comparing traditional batch reactors to novel approach of continuous reactors, which we didn't invent, but nevertheless, very few companies yet employ this model. And even if they do, some other limitations in form of contamination, high production costs, challenges with scalability are rarely being addressed. So we thought to ourselves, if we could make anything happen, let's be bold with our idea for bioreactor. What's the most viable way to get to, let's say, 10x improvements in our process if we do engineering tweaks in our bioreactor model? And how can we make it as accessible as possible, regardless of geography? Because we know in biology, your geographical location would predetermine which feedstocks are available to you, how effectively can you operate, do you have access to cheaper electricity sources, which is a massive limitation in a lot of these companies we're speaking of. And hence we developed this really weird, really outlandish sounding idea for zombified cells, which was inspired by ProBio's process, but we decided to plug it in our interpretation of what a good bioreactor could be like at scale.
Overall, the experience between the two of us, it was really excellent, because I think sometimes you just have these kind of friends in your professional circles that you have a gut feeling that you would vibe in your work, that you would have a good time actually working with. And that was precisely the experience for me and Malika in terms of working together as a team. And Synbio as an organization, I think we used it pretty much as the framework to just guide us in our work, guide us in our thoughts, and we appreciated the fact that such a place existed for us to finally come together and create a project. Overall, I think the only thing that was a bit less was the mentoring, because actually we reached out to the mentor from one of the biotechnological companies that was doing a relatively comparable process to what we, or at least could give us some expertise on the process we were developing. And unfortunately, the mentors, I think, were not really aware of the role that they were gonna play. And he only got back to us at like 9 p.m. the day before we had to pitch, when we pretty much were done with the layout of the presentation and in general the process design. But I think we really enjoyed it either way, and it was my first experience with a hackathon of any sort, actually, and I really enjoyed it.
Likewise, I think we had like a really good synergy happening between me and Maxime, because we kind of worked on projects before through iGEM and relevant Synbio ecosystem events that keep happening in Europe, and that's very exciting to see. And that's why we also decided to jump on Read, Write, and Grow competition, which is also not straightforward to pronounce, but that was the fun element of that. And then we jump onto that Zoom meeting and we see, I think, more than 40 different teams, right? And they all had exciting ideas, from therapeutics to how we get like all the bad stuff out of the water. And me and Maxim were like, and we just have a bioreactor. We really didn't expect to win in that competition, because a lot of the ideas presented were equally as inspiring, equally as ambitious, but we were nevertheless really happy with the results. And I think overall the competition was one of the best organized biohackathons I've been a part of. Personally, I really appreciated the depth of questions that we've got from judges. It didn't feel like just, so what's your idea, or what's the result? It was very educated, straight to the point, highlighting our weaknesses, and kind of also advice-led questions, if I can say so. A lot of the feedback that we received from judges ended up transforming our bioreactor after the competition had finished. And now when we want to move into our laboratory experiments, we are guided by a lot of feedback that we've received during the process, and that's quite inspiring.
For me personally, it was really the fact that there were so many teams. You know, it's not really often beyond the iGEM competition that you see people trying to take their ideas a step further, to really look for money, to really look for a foundation to build something. And the Read, Write, Grow really offered a platform for us to see what was happening in Europe, because I hear a lot about stuff like this happening in the United States or elsewhere where the synthetic biology ecosystem is a bit more developed. But for us as people based in Europe, it is also precious to see and communicate with the people in the same field and see what projects they are currently developing.